That's right. என்ன டைம் ஸ்ரீனி அங்க?
இப்போ 10:20 ஆகுது.
Okay. Good. So last week we actually closed till 108 namas, but we said this has about 124 namas, right? And because different commentators have commented upon it slightly differently, the namas have been it's slightly different. So 20th verse varaikkum it covers about 108 namas, right? 21st verse, tapta chami karabhaya haraye vishwakarmane namastamo nignaya ruchaye lokasakshine. Tapta chami karabhaya. So okay, so what are the namas here? Om tapta chami karabhaya namaha, Om haraye namaha, Om vishwakarmane namaha, Om tamobhi nignaya namaha, Om ruchaye namaha, Om lokasakshine namaha. So tapta chami karabhaya. So what is the overall meaning here? Salutations to the Lord shining like molten gold. Tapta chami karabhaya. Abhaya, destroying darkness. Haraye vishwakarman. Haraye, who is the transcendental fire of supreme knowledge, who destroys darkness of ignorance, who is the cosmic witness of all merits. Lokasakshine, merits and demerits of the denizens who inhabit the universe. Salutations to Vishwakarma, Vishwakarmane, the architect of the universe, the cause of all activity and creation and the world. So this is again the same thing that was told. Pudusa onnum sollala, but it's just there's beauty in the poetry, the way it is written, the way it is. There are different elements being called into being here, right? Like for example, Vishwakarmana. Vishwakarma, we know, is the celestial architect. Actually, do you know who's known to have created the Sudarshana Chakra for Krishna? The Sudarshana Chakra that is held by Narayana or Krishna was actually known to be created by Vishwakarma. That's what I remember reading somewhere. And so he is known as the architect. In fact, he has also created several other weapons of that kind. Like, for example, the Pashupatastra. Now, these weapons were created by Vishwakarma. So he is the architect, celestial architect.
Swargam kuda he designs, is it?
Swarga. Maybe he does. But he is known to have designed, for example, the Parkadal, the place where he is resting, Narayana is resting, and maybe Swarga. So he is essentially the architect of all of these residential places. Maybe he is the one who has also built the Chintamani Griha. Pancha Pandavargalukku ஆமா இந்திரபிரஸ்தா. இந்திரபிரஸ்தன், ஆமா இந்திரபிரஸ்தன் மாயாசுரன், கரெக்ட். இல்ல அரக்க மாளிகை இது different guy. But yeah, இது விஸ்வகர்மா இங்க இல்ல. But so he is known to have built, I mean, we don't know, Mani Dvipa also, Devi's Mani Dvipa also maybe he has built. So
even the Tarakapuri that comes in the Tarak Murugarodadilla.
Oh,
and the Kadale, I think he's involved.
He is popular, so he is known to have
architect.
Correct. He is the chief architect of the celestials. So if you have enough merits and if you have enough influence, you can then call him to build your place. So Vishwakarma is, so the idea of Vishwakarma, this archetype, this Vishwakarma has been created as a Puranic person, is to show that he is capable of building pretty much anything. That is what is being called upon here. So he is Vishwakarmana. Who Vishwakarma? Yar Surya. Aditya is Vishwakarma, which means the material to create this whole world, the loka that we live in, comes out of the sun. Sun uses the material that is available to itself to create all of this. So it can practically create anything and everything out of this. So all that you need to have created, Surya Bhagavan is sufficient in himself. He's self-sufficient to create this whole universe, this whole the loka that we live in. Okay. So he's Vishwakarma. Now the first two words are Taptachami Karabhaya. Abhaya. He is glowing, he is resplendent with the fiery the fire, because of the fire that he is, the burning fire that he is resplendent as gold. He appears this gold color is because he is burning. Tungsten lamp the tungsten lamp, because the tungsten is burning, it glows yellow in color, right? So similarly, there is fire is typically fire, the burning of fire, natural fire is yellow in color, right? So anything that burns emits a golden yellow color, right? So he is Tapta Chamikara Abhaya. So through this Tapta, by this burning process, he is glowing. And we keep repeating this in every session, right? To glow like the sun, you have to burn like the sun, which means there's so much of activity that needs to happen so that we are able to tapas, on the tapas agni to be able to be displayed, we have to do so much tapas. Only then there'll be that agni that will be displayed. And it's not necessarily an agni that is a destroying kind of agni. It is not an agni that will harm you. It is an agni that is very cooling. In fact, it's an agni that is very attractive. One would want to go towards that kind of a jyoti, that kind of a tejas, right? So this is that kind of a Tapta Chamikara Abhaya Haraye, the one who takes away, Harati Iti Harihi. The one who takes away is Harihi. So Haraye Vishwakarmane. So he takes away, he also gives you. So he takes away what? He takes away your ignorance. He takes away your the petty thinking, the small-mindedness, the ignorance that we carry. That is all burnt. It is burnt in what? In the tapta. In the tapta, in the burning of him, the burning of the Surya, all of this is getting burnt. The ignorance is getting burnt. The negativities are getting burnt. And what happens? Something new is created. Vishwakarma. So the action of Vishwakarma happens there. So through the tapta, through the burning, burns away and takes away all the negativities. And what happens is there's creation of something new. This is the process that we go through every time. And this is the process we should go through every time. This is sadhana. In sadhana, when we sit in sadhana, we should be able to burn off everything, our identity, our personality, our memories, anything that we carry. The Ashtapasha, yesterday we saw. The Ashtapashas, the Shadripus, Kama, Krodha, Lobha. And the Ashtapashas, we saw what? Bhaya, Lajja, Sheela, and some of those things, right? We burn all of that. You sit in sadhana, you burn all of that, burn your identity, burn your personality, and then in that burning, all that goes away. See, it's not like antibiotic. See, the problem, they say in antibiotic, when you take an antibiotic, good bacteria also dies. When bad bacteria dies, good bacteria also dies. And then you have to take probiotic to add back good bacteria. So this is not like that kind of burning. This is not like that kind of taking away it will only take away that which is not required for you. Right? It's like, which is why it's like burning the iron ore or the golden ore. When you burn the golden ore with the ore burns away and goes away, comes out separately, and the gold comes out separately. So that is haraye, it goes away. These negativities go away, and then there is a possibility of something new being created. Why are we stuck in the same cycle again and again? Because we don't burn away things within us. We don't carry the audacity within us. Let me burn away my personality. Let me create something new within me. That we are not able to do. Let me redefine myself ever new. Today I'm a different person. Today I'm getting something. I'm going to experience something fresh. And this is what, if you notice, small children, they do this. They go through experience when they see something new. Every day they will have this experience of awe. இப்படியே கண்ணு பெருசா வச்சுன்னு பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம் சின்ன குழந்தைகள்லாம். ஏன்னா they are looking at things with so much of awe. There is so much to know, so much to learn, so much to absorb. So that happens with the creativity then flows is very natural. It is not derived creativity. It is not a creativity that you are for example looking at YouTube in the internet and then trying to mimic that creativity. No, this is a natural creativity, and that is Vishwakarma within us. So we're able to burn out at every time. If you're able to burn out that in our sadhana that we do, we think these are visualizations that we think. We burn out the personality that I hold myself so rigid. I become fluid like the molten gold. Then there is a possibility of a new substance being created. Or necklace edutunu pona, you take a necklace. The first thing, if you go and give a necklace to an achari, if you want a bangle out of a necklace, what will he do? He'll burn it. He'll put it under fire. He'll make it molten. And with that molten, he'll now start creating a new thing. That's the process. Taptachami karabhaya haraye vishwakarmane. Is that Vishwakarma? Namastamo abhinignaya ruchaye loka sakshine. So he is abhinignaya. He takes away the all the dross and destroys ignorance. Gnaya, the gnaya term, this word gnaya is to destroy ignorance. Then ruchaye loka sakshine. He is the sakshi. He is the sakshi of this whole creation. He is the sakshi of this creation. He is the witness who is always watching. He is watching whether you know he is watching or not. He is still watching. It is like that. It, like for example, it is said you don't, whether you turn your back or the front to the sun is still there. Whether you recognize this inner consciousness that is there or not there, it is still there. That is why the realization called realization or recognition. It's called self-recognition. It's called recognition. Recognition means you are reminding yourself that it is there. Now, we talk about realization. What is interesting is the consciousness that is there, it does not gain anything by you noticing it, nor does it lose by you not noticing it. It is always the sakshi. Whether I notice the self or not, whether I notice that there is this still consciousness which is always there, always there, always there, whether I notice it or not, it is still there. It is not dependent on my noticing it. நான் கவனிக்கிறது வந்து is not required for it. Understand? See, that is the beauty of this thing. There is no the recognition of it is only a victory of our understanding. But that consciousness in itself, it is always there. It's like saying, the I'm trying to think of an appropriate example. When we any particular substance, or any substance that is there, whether we recognize it or, like, there is this example that is usually given of not knowing. So there is a beggar. The whole life he is sitting and begging on a platform, on the roadside, on a rock. He sits and begs on a rock. The whole life he is begging. After he dies, people take away his body. They also clear the rock away. When they move the rock away, they suddenly see a lot of gold and silver and rubies and gems under the rock. So this beggar, throughout his life, did not know that all that was there inside. But he's been begging, thinking that he doesn't have anything, although he was sitting right on top of it. So now, whether he knows it or he doesn't know it, for that treasure, it doesn't make any difference. Whether they use this wealth, the treasure, or not, it doesn't make any difference to that treasure itself. It is for the one who's enjoying that presence. So when we dissolve ourselves in that consciousness, in that, the joy that we experience as the ego, the self, the small self that enjoys the joy of touching that big self, the capital self, that is what gives us to the Anandamaya Kosha. When we touch that Atma, the presence of that, and the joy that oozes out through the Anandamaya Kosha, that oozing out, it gives us joy. But for that in itself, it is just Ananda. So for it doesn't, that's the nature of it. It's not, so it's not like you're experiencing that consciousness is suddenly experiencing Ananda. No. There's a term that is usually said, Tamilla cholluva, Suryanukke torcha abdimba, which means you cannot brighten the Surya by showing torch on it. Understand? So the whole so that the Sakshi that is there, it is not dependent on your noticing, but by you noticing it, by I noticing it, I experience the joy that it is. I experience the joy that it is. And when I dissolve with it, that is it. It's like Ramakrishna Paramahansa says, what is the joy of supreme consciousness? Somebody asks him, and he tells, it is like asking a salt doll to go and measure the ocean. What will happen to the salt doll when it goes into the ocean? It will merge into the ocean. How can it measure it? So when your nature becomes that, there is no way for you to be in any other way. Somebody else looking at you may say, he is always joyful. But for the one, always in that state, there is no other state different than that. Right? So that it's very interesting to see this perspective of what a Sakshi is, what a witness is. The witness is something that you don't stand outside and say, I am a witness. No, when you are a witness, that is what you are. That is your nature. That is what it is. When you come out of that witness state, then you look back at it. It is like saying in deep sleep, you will never know the joy of deep sleep in deep sleep. You come out of it and say, wow, I had a wonderful deep sleep. But in deep sleep, எழுப்பி தூங்குறியாப்பா அப்பா பண்ணுவா சின்ன வயசுல. எழுப்பிட்டு தூங்குறியாப்பா, தூங்கிட்டு இருந்தேன்ப்பா, இப்ப முடிச்சிட்டேன். Over that too, he will sincerely do it till I wake up to respond. He will not infer from the fact that I am not responding that I am sleeping. No. I have to get up and say, yes, I am sleeping. So when you are in that state, you will not see yourself different from that state. That is the feeling of Sakshi. That is the experience of Sakshi. You are in that. So, Tapta Chami Karabhaya Namaha, Om Haraye Namaha, Om Vishwakarmane Namaha, Om Tamobhinignaya Namaha, Om Ruchaye Namaha, Om Lokasakshine Namaha. Next. Nashayatyesha Vaibhutam Tadeva Srijati Prabhu Payatyesha Tapatyesha Varshatyesha Gabastibihi. Salutations to the Lord who creates heat by his brilliant rays. He alone creates, sustains and destroys. Krishna அப்படி சொல்லவா? இங்கிலீஷ்ல அதே மாதிரி சொல்லவா நம்ம? கிருஷ்ணாக்கு புரிஞ்சுதா நான் எப்படி சொன்னேன்னு? நாஷயத்யேஷ வைபூதம் ததேவ ஸ்ருஜதி பிரபு. Salutations to the Lord who creates heat by his brilliant rays. Payatyesha tapatyesha varshatyesha gavastivihi. He alone creates, sustains and destroys all that has come into being. Salutations to him who by his rays consumes the waters, heats them up and sends them down as rain again.
Water cycle. Water cycle.
ஏதோ வாட்டர் சைக்கிள். அது என்னது வாட்டர் சைக்கிள்?
வாட்டர் எடுத்து திருப்பி சென்சேட்டர்ஸ் ரெயின் போட்டு.
ஆமா ஆமா ஆமா, correct. So the whole cycle here, that is what is described here. So he consumes the waters, he heats them up, which means he evaporates the water and then sends them down as rain. So nashayatyesha vaibhutam tadeva sriji prabhu. So here is bhuta nashaya namaha. Om bhuta srastre namaha. Om prabhave namaha. Om payate namaha. Om tapate namaha. Om varshate namaha. So the sequence is shown nicely here. Bhutanashaya namaha. So he is the one who resolves the universe during pralaya or during our deep sleep state, which means he is the cycle of absorption, creation, sustenance. Absorption, creation, sustenance. Bhuta srashtre namaha. Srashtre namaha. Bhuta srashtre namaha. So these are words created by these commentators. From Srishti. Bhuta srashtre namaha. So he is the creation of the subsequent cycle. So he is the one who does the nashaya as part of pralaya. He is the one who creates does the srishti as part of srashtre. He is prabhave namaha, which means he manifests the whole universe through his power. Then you see the next three: payate, tapate, varshate. So payate dries up, tapate is burns it, and then varshate is to rain again. So this is, he describes the cycle. And this is, why is this important? Because our sustenance as a society is because of rain, right? Even if you're not vegetarian, you need animals to feed on fields and crops. If you happen to be eating meat as your primary source of diet, the meat comes from an animal which needs to feed on crops. and fields. So essentially, we are agrarian in some way or the other. Right? So those animals need rain, crops to grow. Right? So rain is very important. So the source of rain, the rain. சொல்லுங்க.
Source of food என்னைக்குமே வந்து எர்த் தான்.
Correct, for everybody.
For everybody. So அதான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆகாஷ எல்லாம் வரிசையா வரும்போது பூமி வந்தப்புறம் தான் வந்து அன்னம்.
Correct.
That's the source for every living being.
Every living being, correct. Soil is
different.
Absolutely. So soil is the source for all living beings, and soil is essentially made by Varsha, rain. Varsha, and Varsha is created by Surya. So what Surya does, all these waters that are there in the oceans, he dries them up, evaporates them up, heats them up, makes them into clouds, and then brings them down as rain. Uppu illama. Correct. And if, assuming, now the problem is, the way this is structured is so interesting. You can't take, you've got so much water in the ocean. Can you take the water from the ocean, go and put it into your fields for the fields to grow? You can't. It needs fresh water, and the fresh water has to come from rain. And so as a source of life, as a source of life itself, Surya Bhagavan is. As Annam is the source of life. And so the cycle, Payate dries up, Tapate burns it up and creates clouds, and Varshate causes rain. So Nashayatyesha Vaibhutam Tadeva Srijiti Prabhu Payatyesha Tapatyesha Varshatyesha Gavastibihi. So Bhutanashaya Namaha, Bhutasrashtre Namaha, Prabhave Namaha, Payate Namaha, Tapate Namaha, Varshate Namaha. Then Esha Sukteshu Jagarti Bhuteshu Parinishtitaha. Esha Sukteshu Jagarti Bhuteshu Parinishtitaha. Esha Chaivagnihodrancha Phalamcha Evagni Hotrinam. Salutations to the Lord who abides in the heart of all beings, keeping awake when they are asleep. Verily, he is the Agnihotra, the sacrificial fire, and the fruit gained by the worshipper of the Agnihotra. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivadena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhinaha. He is the Agni that is there, the Brahma Agni, the Agni that is in the form of the Brahman that is in the form of Agni. He is that. And he is the Agnihotra. Agnihotra is somebody who is perennially worshipping the Agni, or who is perennially maintaining Agni. The one who maintains Agni perennially is Agnihotra. Okay. There are in earlier times, it used to be, now one of the reasons when you go to a guru in ancient times, one of the most important thing to carry with you is Samit Panaye. You have to take Samit. Samit is essentially those twigs which have been carefully picked from the jungle, from the forest, twigs of a certain tree that have been picked carefully to be used by the guru in his ashram for the Nityagni. So in rishis and gurus, all their ashrams, there will be an Agni that will be constantly burning. Sri Vidya ji is mentioned, Shirdi Baba. Shirdi Baba they call it the Dhuni. The Nath Sampradaya, one of the Sampradayas of the spiritual tradition in India, is called the Nath Sampradaya. Shirdi Baba comes in that Sampradaya. It's called, that's why he's called Sai Nath. Gorakshanath, Matsyendranath. There are these Nath, and these Nath have the tradition of burning Agni throughout. Throughout means they have to constantly keep an Agni burning. If they happen to travel from one place to the other, wherever they go, the first thing they have to do is set up an Agni Kunda. In fact, one of the Nath who is alive now, of the Nath Sampradaya is this spiritual teacher Sri M. Those who have heard of him, Sri M. He was a Muslim by birth, Mumtaz Ali, but now the name he's got after his Diksha from his Guru is Madhukaranath. His Guru's name is Maheshwar Nath. So they have this tradition of, and so they come from that Gorakshanath, Matsyendranath, that kind of a tradition, where they have to always, for them, dhuni is extremely important. So if they move from one place to the other, wherever they go settle down for the night, the first thing they do is light up the dhuni. They find twigs, they'll find whatever dry wood is available, dry fuel is available, and they'll light it. And it has to burn throughout.
Is it continuous, like from the earlier fire, you bring it and then start with the same thing, or?
Yes, usually, correct. Usually they continue through this thing.
Avbasanam சொல்லுவாங்க.
Correct. அதே மாதிரிதான். Exactly. So this is, Baba has lit a fire from water when the oil sellers resented giving him oil. Yeah, true. So the ability to, and their connection, the Nath Sampradaya, connection with fire is very strong. So like Kalpaka is saying, that he had the ability to light up fire just with water. He didn't need oil. He could convert that. So that their command over fire is much greater. And like Mama is saying, they will actually, they will light, they will not let the fire die. So from one Homakunda, if they have to move it, they will carry the fire in a particular torch and then light up the next one, and so on and so forth, right? So this whole Agnihotra is extremely important for sadhana. But this is a Bahish yantra, a yantra which is on the outside. Agni is the yantra that we're talking about as the Agni as a yantra, it's on the outside. But here he's talking about the Antaragni. So this Agni we have to always carry within us. The spiritual fire we should carry. The fire of tapas, the fire of sadhana, we should always carry. So he's saying he is in the heart. Surya Bhagavan is in the heart of all beings in the form of fire. Esha Sutteshu Jagrati Bhuteshu Parinishtitaha. He is the one that is awake in all of us, even while we are sleeping. Even while we are sleeping as in actually sleeping at night or sleeping in ignorance. So like we said, he is the Loka Sakshine. So whether you are aware or you're not aware, he is still there. He is awake. He is awake as the one who is, he is the one who is awake in you even while you are sleeping. Esha cha eva agnihotram. Cha phalam cha eva agnihotram. So he is the Agnihotra and he is also the fruits of the Agnihotra. He is the one who keeps the Agni alive, and the result of that sadhana of keeping the Agni alive is also Surya Bhagavan. He is the one who gives the fruits of that. Phalam cha eva agnihotrinam. Agnihotrinam, of the Agnihotras, whatever is the fruit that is coming, he is the one who is also the giver of the fruits of that sadhana. Right? So you keep that Agni. Cholo Mama.
Yeah, like if we try to think a lot about this, நம்ம உடம்புக்குள்ளே அந்த அக்னி, we are also, in the form we are Agnihotris because we carry the fire inside. And the fire தான் the body temperature தான்.
Absolutely.
Fire அணிஞ்சு போச்சுன்னா அவ்வளவுதான்.
Correct. That is the death of the body is when the fire of that body goes away. In fact, there is Bhutagni, there is Jataragni. But then the fire of the intellect is called Chittagni, and the fire of desire is called Kamagni.
Everything arises from the same Agni. And இப்போ நீங்க சொல்லும் போது தான் இன்னும் யோசனை பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்கு. அந்த அக்னி இருக்கிறதுனால தான் நம்ம எழுத முடியுது.
Correct. We are able to get up. We are able to get up is because of that Agni within us. Correct. And so that is the Bhutagni, the Agni of the body. And then there is Jataragni, which digests the food. Then there is desire to act, desire to do something, Kamagni. And then when you think you're burning, and then during that is Chittagni. Then there is tapas, sadhana that you do. That is also an Agni that is generating.
Corporately, you should have fire in the belly.
Yeah, you have to have fire in the belly, correct.
Passion.
In fact, when you are in love with somebody, ஃப்ளேம்ஸ்னு சொல்லுவா. சின்ன வயசுல தெரியுமா, டீச்சர் பாட்டுக்கு ஏதோ சொல்லி கொடுத்துட்டு இருப்பா, பசங்க உட்காந்து ஃப்ளேம்ல ஒரு 2 பேர் எழுதி FLAME flames strike பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பா. Your old girlfriend is always referred to as an old flame. So that's the Kamagni. So Agni that way is extremely important in spiritual sadhana. So we have to make it a process. In fact, even today there are many families, many brahmanas who have Agni burning. If they live a traditional life, they have Agni burning in their house in one place.
Dharma ji.
Sorry ma?
Dharma. Agni, keeping Agni is Grihasthashrama Dharma.
Grihasthashrama Dharma. Ama.
Actually, two of them are full orthodox. Idam pandra. So they are daily keeping this upasanam.
Correct. So, Agni upasanam. That is the Agnihotra. So that is the Agnihotra that is mentioned here. Now, you do it as a daily ritual. You do that, but the important thing is to carry it within. Of course, doing it as an upasana on the outside, it generates a certain spiritual energy within. But the important thing is it has to be internalized. It has to be internalized, because the internalizing of any of these actions is what is going to lead you from the Karma Kanda of Vedas to the Jnana Kanda. The transition of Karma Kanda of the Vedic tradition to Jnana Kanda, which is the Upanishads or Vedanta, the transition happens when you transition from the external activity. Transition means not necessarily that you have to stop that and start internalizing only, but you have to carry it along with you. So you do this on the outside to motivate yourself to start visualizing, internalizing, and then you carry that internalizing through the day. And then again in the evening you internalize it, carry it through the night. Again you do in the morning, you internalize it, carry it through the day. So that process is important. And a lot of people, like Meera was saying, today they follow this in their households. And it's a very beautiful tradition, right?
In the Vadhyara சொன்னார், இந்த கிரகஸ்தாசிரமம், அதாவது ஃபர்ஸ்ட் when we marry, இந்த அக்னி இது பண்றாரு இல்லையா, உபவாசம் கொடுக்கறது கொண்டு வந்து we are then supposed to continue it until there is somebody who will require that Agni. Chidagniக்கு வேண்டிய அக்னி வேண்டக்க அந்த அக்னி வச்சுதான் சிதாக்னி பண்ணுவாங்க.
You're right, correct. சிதா, ஆமா கரெக்ட். கடைசியா இந்த இதுக்கு போறச்சே, கரெக்ட், ஸ்மசானத்துக்கு போறச்சே அந்த அக்னி எடுத்துட்டு தான் போய் இது பண்ணுவா. See, because I maybe you're spending a little time on this, but I think it's important, right? There is a very, very, very important way in which you can create this relationship with Agni. In fact, ladies can create this in the kitchen also. Although ipo kitchen la gas adupu da, right? But still there is some relationship ladies will have when you're operating with that Agni in the kitchen. The other important place where Agni you have to build that relationship is when you're lighting the diya in your altar. Whenever you light that diya in the altar, in fact in Sri Vidya Tantra there are dasha mudras. They're called deepa mudras. So you can show those deepa mudras to activate the Jyoti Devi, the Devi in that flame. So these deepa mudras are important so that you invoke that. What you're doing in that process is you're creating a relationship with the Agni. create, sorry,
ஒரு சரி சொல்றேன். இந்த அடுப்பை மூட்டி இது பண்றாங்கன்னா ஒரு டைம்ல அரிசியை களைஞ்சி போடுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி அடுப்புல ஒரு கொஞ்சம் அரிசி அப்படியே சுத்தி அந்த அக்னியில போட்டுட்டு தான் அரிசியை களைஞ்சு ஒலையில போடணும். அது வந்து ரிச்சுவல் இருந்தது.
correct.
என்னோட சின்ன வயசு வரைக்கும் இது வந்து அக்னிக்கு சாதம் அன்ன அரிசியை போடாம
Correct.
நாம சாதம் பண்ணோம்.
You're doing some kind of so am I saying you take annam and that agni first for
Arisi,
cooking. You take arisi and then you take raw rice and you kind of offer it to that agni and then you start cooking on it. So this is a way in which you are feeding the agni and also kind of bringing it to life, because the way the agni is going to burn and cook your food depends on the relationship you have with agni, right? It can burn off your food, right? If you don't deal with it properly, it has the ability to do that. See, imagine it's a fire hazard. In fact, a lot of Westerners don't cook at home because it's a hazard. கிச்சன்ல எல்லாம் வந்து ஃபயர் எக்ஸ்டிங்விஷர் வச்சிருவா. நம்ம ஸ்ரீனி யூஎஸ்ல எல்லாம் ஃபயர் எக்ஸ்டிங்விஷர் வச்சு விட்டுருவா கிச்சன்ல. Which is why Indians going abroad, people find it very strange that we cook so much. Usually the places you go outside India, you'll find kitchens are small. They have what called as kitchenettes, right? Used for very little, very this thing, limited usage, and also most of places they have,
and then eating it.
correct. And then most of the places they have hot plates, electric stoves, right? This agni is not very it's usually seen as a hazard, but in the Hindu culture, agni is an extremely important element, because what you're doing, you're connecting the inner agni with the outer agni, and that transaction is important. That conversation, that dialogue, that is important. Arati pandrale, when you do arati, that's an agni, and what you do is arati usually ipdi pannittu we have to consume it. We do that and we have to consume that arati, the akasha that is around the arati, the etheric content of the arati. See, the whole science behind why you do like this, arati anga, you show it to the altar there and you bring here and you do this and you do like this, right? The action. What is it that we're doing? There is an akashic content. There is an energy content that is there around the deity, the vigraham in the garbhagraha. Agni has the ability to absorb that akashic content or the energy content of the deity, which has been built over years and years of prana pratishtha and worship and all of that. So through that arati, that energy of the deity is brought to you, and you now use your hands to take that content and then absorb it. So that whole process is very important, right? So that agni has that ability to carry it. Srini, you were trying to say something, Kana?
இல்ல அந்த இப்போ ஹோல் யூஎஸ்லயே வந்து தேர் ட்ரைங் டு பேன் ஆல் கேஸ் ஸ்டவ்ஸ் பிகாஸ் ஆஃப் இட்ஸ் அ ஃபயர் ஹசார்ட். நீங்க சொல்லிட்டு இருந்த இல்லையா? ஸோ ஃபெடரல் லாவே பண்றதுக்கு ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கா. இன்னும் ஆகல, பட் தேர் ட்ரைங்.
See, that is the problem. So when you urbanize, society is so much so that these relationships of with natural elements you lose. These relationships with the natural elements you lose. And later, adukapram we go on a retreat. வீட்டுல எல்லாம் சிமெண்டடா ஆக்கிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் ரிட்ரீட்டுக்கு போவோம். செருப்பு காட்டிட்டு we have to walk, ட்ரீயை போய் ஹக் பண்ணணும், இதெல்லாம் பண்ணுவோம்.
இந்த அம்மா சொன்னதான் எனக்கு ஞாபகம் வந்தது. அதுதான் யோசனை பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். அப்போல்லாம் வந்து யூஸ் டு அடுப்புல எல்லாம் வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அரிசிமா வச்சு கோலம் போட்டுருவோம். இட்ஸ் a kind of a respect.
Correct.
Start the fire itself. இந்த அரிசி போடுறது வந்து இட்ஸ் a kind of a sacrifice that we give it back to the agni.
Absolutely.
That food, because again all this matter for what goes inside for changing our guna. Yeah.
Number guna, correct.
So these obeisance to agni, sacrifice to agni, is to make the food that is, more sattvic, so that it goes inside and makes a sattvic.
Absolutely.
எவ்வளவு பெரிய science இருந்திருக்கு. My
எவ்வளவு
God.
இருக்கு பாருங்க. So everywhere we encounter Agni in our cultural engagements, it has a lot of significance, be it in the kitchen, be it in the altar, be it if you keep this diya outside வீட்ல எங்கயாவது வைக்கிறதெல்லாம், it creates an environment. It is said that if you want to create a spiritual environment, the best thing is, in a closed dark room, keep a small clay lamp with oil or ghee. ஆயில்னா இது இல்ல, பெட்ரோலியம் இல்ல, நல்லெண்ணெயோ மாதிரி. Put that, and then wick, a cotton wick, and then keep that. It instantly creates an environment of a spiritual aura. It creates an environment of spiritual aura instantaneously. ஒண்ணுமே இல்ல, ஒரு ஓரத்துல அப்படியே வச்சுட்டு போய் உட்காருங்க நீங்க. You see that, you just sit, there'll be a sudden calming of the mind, and a certain a certain feeling of peace and connection that will get created. And homa also, in the same way, when you do a homa, it is said that you have to look at the Agni, keep looking at the Agni, because you create that relationship, right? So all of this is for this particular shloka, where he's saying एष सुप्तेषु जागृति भूतेषु परिनिष्ठितः एष चैवाग्निहोत्रं च फलं चैवाग्निहोत्रिणाम्. सुप्तेषु ओम सुप्तेषु जागृते नमः. ओम भूतेषु परिनिष्ठिताय नमः. ओम अग्निहोत्राय नमः. ओम अग्निहोत्रिणां फलप्रदाय नमः. ओम अग्निहोत्र फलप्रदाय नमः. Okay. So these are the see, it's written here. See, it says any spiritual exercise discipline leading purity of mind is a yajna. Any spiritual exercise of discipline leading to purity of mind is yajna. The disciplined mind itself is like fireplace, called antarvedi as opposed to bahirvedi. Offering sense organs in the fire of self-control is an internal yajna. Okay. That yajna also is there in the second chapter. Brahma, we said that Brahmarpanam, Brahma havihi, havis of the yajna. Brahma agno, Brahma agni, Brahma agno, Brahmanahutam, ahutam. Brahmaiva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhinah. Om ayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि. जगदम्बिकायै इति समर्पयामि. सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि. हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.